The corridor lights flickered for a moment, and the small dragon boy stopped walking. He held his breath, afraid the sound might make him fall. The air felt too thin in his chest like it always did. His steps were slow, careful, as if the metal floor might break under him. Far above, the Dragon Emperor ruled the stars, but here, deep in the lowest level of the Imperial Station, no one looked down. The boy's name was Veilrix, though no one spoke it anymore. He was smaller than other dragon children. His scales were pale, not bright. His wings were thin and weak, folded tight against his back because they hurt when he moved them. Every breath felt like work. Sometimes sparks slipped from his mouth when he coughed, but they never became fire. In the Empire of Dragons this made him useless. Veilrix had learned something early in life. If you are quiet, people forget you faster. The servants passed him without bowing. The guards did not stop him. Their eyes slid over his small form like he was part of the wall. He walked these corridors often not because he was allowed to, but because no one cared enough to stop him. His room was large and cold, filled with symbols of power that meant nothing to him. Out here at least there was movement. Sound. Life. His legs shook as he reached the waste corridor, the place where broken machines and unused tools were stored. The lights were dim here. Veilrix leaned against the wall, trying to breathe slowly like the doctors once told him. Those doctors had stopped coming long ago. They had said his body was wrong. That fixing him was a waste of time. A sharp pain moved through his chest. His claws scraped the floor as his knees bent. He slid down, sitting then falling onto his side. His vision blurred. The world felt very far away. No alarms rang. No guards came running. The son of the Dragon Emperor lay alone on the floor, unnoticed. A cleaning unit passed by, its soft wheels humming. It scanned the area and moved on. Machines were taught what mattered. Veilrix did not. Footsteps echoed from the far end of the corridor. Not heavy boots. Light steps. Human steps. The human cleaner was named Mara Ellen. She wore a plain gray uniform and carried a small cleaning pack over her shoulder. This was the lowest assignment on the station, the place no one wanted. Mara had taken it without complaint. Quiet work paid the same. She almost walked past him. Then she saw the way his chest moved, too fast, too shallow. Mara stopped. She frowned, setting down her pack. Dragons were common on the station, but children were not. Sick ones even less. She knelt slowly, careful not to scare him. "Hey," she said softly. Veilrix tried to answer. No sound came out. Mara reached out, then paused. Dragons were dangerous, everyone said so. Even small ones. Especially royal ones. But this child did not look dangerous. He looked like he might disappear. She touched his shoulder. His scales were cold. "That's not good," she whispered. His eyes opened a little. They were large and dark, filled with fear, not anger. He tried to pull away, but his body did not listen. Mara looked around. No guards. No cameras aimed this way. Just silence. She made a choice without knowing why. Mara slipped off her jacket and wrapped it around him. It was too big, but it was warm. She lifted him carefully. He was lighter than he should have been. Much lighter. As she stood, her wrist device buzzed. Unauthorized biological movement detected. She ignored it. Mara moved faster, her heart pounding. She did not know who the child was. She did not need to. She only knew he needed help and no one else was coming. Veilrix felt warmth for the first time in days. Not the heat of fire, but something softer. He rested his head against her shoulder. The pain in his chest was still there, but it was quieter now. He smelled something clean. Something human. He did not understand why the stranger had stopped. No one ever stopped. Mara passed through service doors meant for workers, not royalty. Her ID flashed yellow, then red. She kept going. Every step felt heavier, but she did not slow down. "Stay with me," she said, though she did not know if he understood. Veilrix heard her voice like it came through water. Still he held on to it. As they reached the lift, the lights above them shifted. Somewhere far away, a system finally noticed something was wrong. Data moved. Flags were raised. The station began to wake. But it was too late to be quiet now. The lift doors closed. For the first time in his short life, the Dragon Emperor's son was being carried away from the place that forgot him. And the galaxy did not yet understand what that small act would cost, or what it would change. The lift shook as it moved upward. The walls hummed and red warning lights blinked on and off. Mara held the small dragon boy close to her chest, keeping her arms steady even though her hands were shaking. His breathing was still weak. Each breath sounded like it might be his last. Her wrist device buzzed again. Unauthorized transport. Return subject to nearest security point. Mara turned the sound off. She did not know where she was going yet. She only knew where she was not going. She would not take him back to the place where he had been left to die. When the lift doors opened, the upper service level was busy. Workers moved fast. Drones floated overhead. Voices filled the air. Mara stepped out and kept walking, lowering her head so no one would look too closely at what she carried. The dragon boy stirred. "Easy," she whispered. His eyes opened for a moment. Fear moved through them when he saw the crowd. His claws curled into her uniform, weak but desperate. That small movement made her chest tighten. "It's okay," she said. "I've got you." A security drone drifted closer. Its eye glowed blue, scanning. Mara turned sharply into a side corridor. The drone paused, then continued on. She did not stop walking until her legs began to burn. She reached a medical station built for dragons. The doors opened automatically. The inside smelled sharp and clean. Dragon doctors looked up, surprised. "I need help," Mara said, stepping forward. One doctor frowned. "That child is Imperial." "Yes," Mara said. "He can't breathe." The doctors exchanged looks. One of them scanned the boy. The device beeped, then went silent. "He is unstable," the doctor said. "His condition is known." "Then treat him," Mara said. The doctor shook his head. "Resources are not approved. He has been evaluated." Mara felt something break inside her. "He's a child." "He is a dragon," the doctor replied. "And a failed one." Mara stared at them. Not one of them had touched the boy. Not one had tried to make him comfortable. She turned away. "Wait," one doctor said. "You cannot remove him." Mara was already walking. Outside the station, her wrist device screamed with alerts. Her ID flashed red. Her access began to close. She ran. Mara knew one other place. A human-built medical hub on the edge of the station. It was meant for fragile bodies, for species that broke easily. Dragons did not use it. They did not respect it. She pushed through crowds, ignoring the stares. Some pointed. Some stepped back in fear. A few laughed, thinking it was some strange human mistake. The boy coughed. A weak spark slipped from his mouth and died in the air. "Please," Mara whispered, not sure who she was begging. Security doors closed ahead of her. She slid to a stop, breathing hard. The boy's body felt heavier now. His eyes fluttered. "No," she said. "No, no, no." A human technician nearby froze when he saw them. "What happened?" "Open the door," Mara said. "Please." The technician hesitated. "That's a dragon." "He's sick," she said. "Help me." Something in her voice made the technician move. He tapped his panel. The doors opened. Mara rushed inside. The human hospital was bright, white, and calm. Machines beeped softly. Nurses turned in surprise as she entered. "I need help," Mara said again. "Now." They did not argue. They did not ask for rank or permission. They took the boy from her arms and placed him on a bed built for smaller beings. Scanners moved over him. Screens filled with numbers. "He's burning up," one nurse said. "And freezing," another replied. The boy cried out softly, a thin sound that cut through the room. Mara stood back, her hands empty, shaking. "Can you treat him?" she asked. The doctor nodded. "We can try." That was enough. Outside the hospital, the station locked down. Orders moved fast. A royal child had been taken. A human cleaner was now a criminal. Mara felt fear rise in her chest, heavy and cold. But when she looked at the boy, still breathing, still alive, she knew something else was stronger. For the first time, someone had chosen him. That choice could not be taken back. Far away, in the highest chamber of the station, the Dragon Emperor felt something shift. Not pain. Not anger. Awareness. A signal reached him. His weakest son had been moved. Touch. Taken. The Emperor's claws tightened around his throne. The smallest act of defiance had begun a storm, and no one could stop it now. The human hospital was quiet in a way the dragon wards never were. There was no fire in the air, no loud commands, no voices filled with pride. Only soft lights, steady machines, and people moving with care. Veilrix lay on the bed, wrapped in warm sheets, his chest rising and falling in slow, uneven breaths. Human machines scanned him again and again. They did not rush. They did not step back in fear of his scales or his blood. They adjusted settings, changed angles, and watched the numbers with calm eyes. "He's not failing," one doctor said quietly. "He's compensating." Another doctor leaned closer to the screen. "His body is working harder because it's trying to grow like a full dragon, but it can't. Not without help." They spoke about him like he mattered. Mara stood near the wall, her arms folded tight. She felt very small now that the running was over. Her uniform was dirty. Her ID was locked. She knew guards would come for her soon. Still she did not move. Veilrix stirred. His eyes opened slowly. The pain was still there, but it was different now. Less sharp. Less frightening. The air felt warmer. Easier to breathe. A nurse noticed at once and moved closer. "Hey there," she said softly. "You're safe." Veilrix did not understand all the words, but he understood the tone. No anger. No shame. He turned his head and saw Mara. She smiled, tired but real. His claw lifted slightly, then fell back onto the bed. The nurse gently placed a small support under his arm. "He's very undernourished," the doctor said. "Not just food. Energy. Balance." "Can we fix it?" another asked. "We can try," the first doctor replied. "But it will take time. And care." No one laughed at that. They began slowly. Warm fluids. Adjusted air pressure. A mask that helped his lungs without forcing them. They watched his reactions, changed what did not work and kept what did. Hours passed. Outside the hospital, alarms echoed through the station. Human staff heard the news spreading. A dragon child. Royal blood. Unauthorized treatment. Some were afraid. Others were angry. But no one stopped working. Veilrix slept. Real sleep, not the painful half-rest he knew before. His breathing smooth. His tail twitched once, then relaxed. His scales took on a faint shine, not bright, but alive. Mara sank into a chair near the bed. For the first time since she found him, she allowed herself to breathe fully. She watched the rise and fall of his chest, counting each breath like it was something fragile. A guard entered the ward. A human guard, wearing neutral colors. He looked at the scene and paused. "They're on their way," he said quietly. Mara nodded. "I know. They say you broke protocol." "I did." He studied the child, then looked back at her. "Was it worth it?" Mara did not answer at once. She watched Veilrix sleep, his face calm in a way she had never seen before. "Yes," she said. The guard did not argue. A dragon medical envoy arrived soon after. Their presence changed the air. The temperature rose slightly. Pride and power followed them into the room. They scanned the boy. Their devices showed changes. Small ones. Positive ones. "This is unexpected," one envoy said. "He is responding," another added, confusion clear in his voice. The human doctor folded his arms. "You labeled him a failure. You stopped trying." The dragon envoy bristled. "We follow efficiency." The doctor shook his head. "We follow patience." Veilrix coughed lightly, then settled again. The machines did not alarm. The room stayed calm. The dragon envoy said nothing more. Mara felt eyes on her. She did not look away. For the first time, the dragon science did not have answers. Human medicine did not see a weak dragon or a broken royal. They saw a child whose body needed time, balance, and someone willing to stay. Hours turned into a full cycle. Veilrix woke again, this time fully. He looked around slowly. The fear was still there, but it no longer ruled him. "Warm," he whispered, his voice thin but clear. Mara's eyes filled. She laughed softly and wiped her face. "Yes," she said. "You are." Veilrix closed his eyes again, holding on to that word. Far above the hospital, in a chamber of fire and stone, the Dragon Emperor received updated reports. Numbers. Data. Signs of improvement. His claws tightened, not in anger but in something he did not name. For the first time, the Empire's strongest ruler was forced to face a simple truth. Human medicine did not see what was wrong with the child. It saw what was still possible. The air in the human hospital changed before anyone announced his arrival. The lights dimmed slightly. The temperature rose just enough to be noticed. Conversations stopped, one by one, like a breath being held across the ward. The Dragon Emperor had come. His presence filled the corridor before his form appeared. Heavy steps. The sound of claws on metal. Power pressed into the space, silent and absolute. Human staff froze where they stood. Some lowered their heads. Others watched, unsure but unwilling to run. Mara stood beside Veilrix's bed. Her hands were clenched at her sides. She felt very small again, smaller than she had ever felt before. Still she did not step back. The Emperor entered the room. He was massive, his scales dark and perfect, his eyes burning like stars trapped in stone. Gold markings traced his armor and crown. This was the being who ruled fleets, who bent worlds to his will. And yet, his gaze did not sweep the room. It went straight to the bed. Veilrix was awake. He felt the change before he saw it. The air was heavy now. Warm in a sharp way. His heart beat faster, but his chest did not hurt like it used to. He turned his head and saw his father. The Dragon Emperor stopped a few steps away. For a long moment he said nothing. The human machines continued to beep softly, steady and calm, as if unaware of who stood among them. Valrix's breathing stayed even. The mask over his face did not fog in panic. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "He lives," the Emperor said at last. "Yes," a human doctor replied, steady but respectful. "He is improving." "That was not possible," the Emperor said. The doctor did not argue. He simply turned a screen so the data could be seen. Small gains. Slow progress. Real change. The Emperor studied the numbers. His tail moved once, slow and controlled. "You took him," the Emperor said, his voice shifting toward Mara. Mara swallowed. "Yes." "Without permission." "Yes." Silence followed. The kind of silence that ended lives. Valrix lifted his head slightly. The movement was small, but it was his choice. He looked at the Emperor not with fear but with something new. Curiosity. "She helped me," Valrix said. His voice shook but the words were clear. The room froze. The Emperor's eyes widened just a fraction. He had not heard his son speak in full words in years. "You speak," the Emperor said slowly. Valrix nodded. "I can breathe." The Emperor took one step closer. Human staff tensed. Guards shifted their weight. The Emperor stopped again when the machines did not alarm. The boy did not struggle. There was no sign of pain. "What did you do to him?" the Emperor asked. The doctor answered. "We listened. We adjusted. We stayed." The Emperor's gaze dropped to the thin lines of tubing, the simple devices, the human tools that lacked fire or force. "This place is weak," he said. "It is gentle," the doctor replied. The words seemed to strike something unseen. The Emperor looked at his son again. Valrix's scales were still pale. His wings still thin. But there was life in his eyes. Not fading. Not hiding. The Emperor remembered other moments. Doctors turning away. Advisors shaking their heads. Reports filed and forgotten. He remembered how easy it had been not to look. Mara felt the weight of his gaze on her once more. "You defied the Empire," the Emperor said. Mara met his eyes. Her voice was quiet but it did not break. "I noticed him." The words hung in the air. The Emperor turned back to the bed. Slowly, carefully, he lowered himself to one knee. The motion sent a shock through the room. No one had ever seen the Dragon Emperor kneel outside a throne hall. He reached out, stopping just short of touching Valrix. "Does it still hurt?" he asked. Valrix thought for a moment. Not like before. The Emperor closed his eyes. In that small space something ancient cracked. Not pride. Something deeper. "I did not see you," the Emperor said. Valrix did not answer. He did not need to. The Emperor stood and faced the room. His voice carried power but it was different now. "This human is under my protection," he said, gesturing to Mara. "This facility will remain active. Human medicine will continue." No one argued. As the Emperor turned to leave, he looked once more at his son. "Rest," he said. Valrix smiled. A small thing. But real. When the Emperor was gone, the air slowly returned to normal. The lights brightened. Breath returned to the room. Mara sank into the chair, her legs shaking. For the first time in the Empire's long history, the Dragon Emperor had truly looked. And the galaxy would never be the same. Years passed, quietly at first, then all at once. The human hospital remained where it was, no longer hidden or ignored. Its doors stayed open and not only to humans. Other species came. Even dragons came, some in secret, some with open permission. The rules of the station changed, slow but steady, like stone worn down by water. Valrix grew. Not fast. Not strong in the way dragons love to praise. But he grew in ways no one had planned for. His breathing stayed steady. His pain faded into memory. His wings never became large but they carried him short distances, enough for joy. His fire remained soft, more light than heat. The Empire watched him closely. At first they waited for him to fail. He did not. Mara stayed nearby though her life changed. She was no longer a cleaner. Titles were offered. Honors spoken. She refused most of them. She worked in the hospital instead, helping where hands were needed, where voices were heard. To Valrix she was simply the one who noticed. When he was old enough, Valrix walked the halls of the station without fear. Servants bowed now. Guards watched him with respect. But he spoke to them as equals, asking names, asking questions. He remembered the floor where he had collapsed. He visited it once, standing quietly, saying nothing. The Dragon Emperor watched his son from a distance. He did not push him toward the throne. He did not hide him away. He listened when Veilric spoke. And Veilric spoke often. He spoke of care, of balance, of time. When he stood before the council, his voice was calm and clear. He did not demand change. He described it. How many like me, he asked, were left unseen? The question spread farther than any command. Across the galaxy, stories began to move. Not of conquest, not of war, but of a human cleaner who carried a dying dragon child through locked doors. Of doctors who treated a patient, not a rank. Of an emperor who knelt. Other empires listened. Some laughed at first. Then they looked closer. Medical treaties changed. Shared hospitals appeared on stations that once allowed only the strong. Weakness was no longer a reason to turn away. It became a reason to act. The galaxy did not remember the day by its date. It remembered the choice. Veilric never became Dragon Emperor. He did not want the throne. He became something rarer. A bridge. He traveled between worlds, moving slowly, carefully, always with others beside him. Where he went, human doctors followed. Dragon healers followed too, now willing to learn. When asked what power humans held, Veilric answered simply. They stop. That confused many. They stop when others walk past, he explained. They notice. Mara stood behind him during many of these talks, older now, her hair streaked with gray. She never spoke unless asked. She did not need to. On one distant world, a child of another species lay sick, ignored by those who feared weakness. A human medic remembered a story. He stopped. He carried the child. The pattern repeated. Not fast. Not everywhere. But enough. One day, long after the alarms had faded into history, Veilric returned to the hospital where it began. He stood in the quiet room listening to the familiar beeps. He placed a hand on the bed where he had once struggled to breathe. The Dragon Emperor joined him, older now, his power unchanged, his eyes different. This is what they will remember, the Emperor said. Veilric nodded. They should. The Emperor looked at his son, at the life that had almost been lost, and at the future shaped by a simple act. No life, the Emperor said slowly, is too small. Veilric smiled. And across the galaxy that truth settled into law, into habit, into memory. Not because of fear. But because one human noticed and the universe learned to look back.